Hi, this is Shelley Schutte, and this is my presentation on critical thinking. The video that you watched is a video that I found on YouTube. I thought it was really appropriate for this presentation. It showed people of all ages explaining what critical thinking is. But today our main focus is going to be critical thinking in the preschool age, so it's for our little ones, and how important it is. What is critical thinking? Critical thinking is the ability to make good decisions and to clearly explain the foundations for those decisions. I put in this picture because I thought it was kind of funny since we're in a technology class, and this is what our world has came to, is that students pretty much find the answers to all their questions on the computer, it seems like. So trying to get them to think critically is so important because it makes their minds think, and it's way more important than having them just go on a computer and find the answer. So that is why I thought that was pretty clever, because that is the easy route all the time. All right. So how young is too young? People would say critical thinking in preschool. I don't know about that, but it's very proven that young children are fully capable of learning to use organized and analysis to solve problems. So they are capable of doing it. Let's see. Benefits of critical thinking. It builds self-esteem. It lays a foundation for formal education, and it develops a lifelong love of learning. So there are many good benefits of critical thinking. Setting the scene. Well, in the preschool atmosphere, the activities must be stimulating, engaging, and fun. And the material that you use should be colorful, easily understood, sequenced in small steps, game-like, and solvable in a short period. There are 6 major thinking skills, and they are knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. We're going to go over these a little bit more in depth, each of them, but those are the major 6 that we will be talking about. First up is knowledge, and knowledge is remembering or recalling appropriate, previously learned information to draw out factual answers. I kind of put on, under asking the right questions, some of the words that you use to get the answers out of your children that you want. And like for knowledge, some of the sample question, a sample question would be, how many eggs in a dozen? That would be a sample question of knowledge. Next, we're going to talk about comprehension, and that is grasping or understanding the meaning of informal material. And a sample question for comprehension would be, explain how an egg becomes a chicken. That would be a sample question for comprehension. Next is application. And application is applying previously learned information to new and unfamiliar situations. And the words that you would kind of use is demonstrate, apply, classify. Any of these on here would work with trying to ask a question. And a sample question for application would be, what do an egg and the shape of a globe have in common? And can an egg grow into a cow? That would be definitely an application question for them for critical thinking. Analysis, breaking down information into parts or examining information. Some of the right words or phrases would be, what are the differences, separate, or arrange. And a sample question for that would be, what is one difference between eggs laid by a frog and by a chicken? So that would kind of be an example of an analysis question. Moving on, we will go to synthesis, and that's applying prior knowledge and skills to combine elements into a pattern not clearly there before. And a sample question for synthesis would be, what might happen if a cow laid eggs? And knowing what you know about egg-laying animals, what could you say about animals that don't lay eggs? That would be a sample question. And I got all these sample questions from a website, and it was wonderful to look up, and I have that listed in the references. Evaluation, and this is our last one, and that's judging or deciding according to some set of criteria without right or wrong answers. And some of the phrases or words that you would use was decide, select, measure, and explain. And a sample question about evaluation would be, what do egg-laying animals have in common? And that would kind of be a wrap-up for the whole thinking process. Now I was going to give you an example of what like a critical thinking worksheet or activity for a preschool age would actually be looking like. So that would be here. And sorry if it's kind of fuzzy. I had some problems uploading it, but hopefully it'll work. The instructions are to draw a line connecting each blue figure without touching any other color. So the main thing about critical thinking in this is that there's more than one possibility to do this worksheet. So it's getting your kids to find out that there's always not just one right answer. And this is kind of a how-to, an example of how-to, and then I do have an example of what is not critical thinking in preschoolers, and it actually comes from Mickey Mouse's Clubhouse, an example. And it's my slide is don't discourage, because you don't want to discourage critical thinking in young ones. And this came from the preschool TV program Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and I call it the case of Minnie Mouse. And in the TV show, Minnie asks, which box would the bow be in? And she gave 3 sizes of boxes, one that was clearly too small, one that fits just right, and one that was bigger and too big is what it looks like. Minnie answered that box number 2 was the right answer. So she only gave one answer. She didn't say there was any other possible answer. She said number 2 was the right answer, and if they guessed that, they were right. Clearly, as critical thinkers, we can see that the bow could have fit maybe in box 3. So in critical thinking is considering all possibilities. So the correct answer for critical thinking would have been that the bow could have fit in number 2 or number 3. And to sum it up, critical thinking is for our little ones too, obviously. So they can do it. And here are my references. And they were all very good sites, and our book always helps me out. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you very much.